Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be more of a relaxed kind of draw with me video. I'm going to be showing you a few drawing exercises that you can do, and each one takes about 10 minutes, or you could even shorten them down to about 5 minutes just depending on how you feel, or you can make them longer. You can do each one for about an hour, however you're feeling at the moment. And the purpose of these drawing exercises is to help you work through art block. They're not necessarily meant to cure art block, but they are to help you stay in the habit of creating art and whatever type of art you actually make. Because one of the biggest challenges, especially when you're coming out of a long period of art block, is getting back into things if you have gone a long time without drawing or painting or whatever. So these are meant to sort of help just keep you in the flow of creating, even if you're not feeling particularly creative, or if you're not feeling motivated or inspired or whatever. And the only rule that I have for these exercises is they have to be stress-free. They don't necessarily have to be fun, because again, the purpose is to kind of just keep you in the habit of creating, but they should not be stressful. If you're at a point where even doing like simple drawing exercises is really stressful for you, then it's probably time to take a break from any art at all. Maybe take a vacation or do something else for a little bit. But yeah, so that's the only rule, is they should be stress-free. A couple of suggestions that I have, again, these are not rules, is you should keep in mind that these don't ever have to be shown to anybody. Nobody needs to see these at any point in time, and unless you decide that you want to show them. So give yourself permission to create quote-unquote ugly art, to just scribble literally and just make something that you hate, and you can literally delete it immediately afterwards, or if you're doing traditional media, you can crumple it up and throw it away. Nobody has to ever look at it again, not even you. So it is okay to create something even if you hate it, or even if you're not in love with it. And also, these can be used progressively, because they kind of go from one end of the spectrum of creating art to like the other. So if you're feeling so inspired, you can start with one exercise and then you can move into the next exercise and the next exercise, or you can do the first exercise for a few days and then move on to the second and the third. However you feel like doing it. You can skip one or all of them. These are just suggestions that have helped me in the past and actually help me now, because I am currently going through a little bit of art block, which is why the topic is on my mind. So let's get started with the first exercise. And this is going to feel a little bit like a cheat because this is an exercise that might not even be able to be called an exercise, but it's just doodling. It's just mindless doodling. And the purpose of this is to kind of get your hand and like your mind just in sort of a muscle memory sort of flow. So you want to be creating shapes within your doodling, your abstract doodling, that you like to create. So for me personally, I like to create like flowy shapes, that, you know, flowy, rounded, softer shapes. So that's what a lot of my abstract doodles look like. Some people might like to make very angular, sharp shapes. Some people might like to create, you know, buildings, maybe abstract buildings, something like that. Obviously, these are not buildings, but it should go in line with the types of lines that you like to put down. So mine, as I mentioned, is going to be flowy, soft shapes. I'm going to turn down my stabilization on my brush. And the reason for that is because I want to rely just entirely on myself, my brain, my hands, and I don't really want a lot of input from the program. Sometimes that really just depends on what I'm drawing and how I'm feeling at the moment. But for this particular exercise, I do want it to be entirely just me drawing as I see fit. So to get started, literally just choose whatever your favorite brush is, if you have a favorite brush in Procreate. Mine is Tinderbox for like inking, and you don't have to use black if you don't want to. I'm going to go ahead and use like a dark red purple color, and just start making shapes. Sometimes if you don't, even in this particular exercise, if you don't know where to start, it helps to start like in a corner and just make a shape. Another suggestion that I have, again, this is not a rule, but a suggestion that I have for this is don't edit yourself. Don't delete, don't undo, don't go like this, like constantly trying to make the shape perfect or anything like that. Just draw as you see fit. And again, you can set yourself a timer for like 10 minutes if you want to. So how far you get within the 10-minute period really just depends on how fast you draw, what you're drawing, how much you are editing yourself, which again, the whole purpose is to really not edit yourself, but this is as far as I'm able to get in 10 minutes. And of course, if you decide that you want to continue past the 10-minute mark, then you can absolutely do that. So again, this is a completely mindless doodle that doesn't have to mean anything or go anywhere. It's meant to be abstract. You just draw whatever shapes or ideas come to mind, and they don't even have to connect to each other. You could just draw random shapes all over the screen, and they don't have to be one continuous sort of doodle. So the second exercise is to draw, and this is something that is usually recommended in like every single art class, beginner art class that you ever take, but draw something in front of you. And that doesn't mean set up like a still life composition or anything like that. It doesn't mean go somewhere like a coffee shop or out into nature or whatever. It means where you're sitting at this very moment, draw something that is in front of you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be accurate. Again, this is just a 10-minute quick sketch. And again, I would recommend not editing as much as possible. Try not to erase, try not to make perfect lines. Don't worry about the stabilization on your pen or your whatever paintbrush you happen to be using. And what I happen to be looking at right now is a space heater. So that's what I am going to be drawing. And I can say immediately that that's going to be difficult for me because I am not very good with boxy shapes, straight lines, hard edges, things like that. So, and it's in a perspective, it's at an angle, so it's going to be a problem for me. But the point is to just kind of like get you looking around at your surroundings, kind of drawing what's in front of you and letting go of it needing to be perfect. So I've got a part of a wall, I guess. I'm just gonna make the wall all the way up. So yes, again, not the most exciting drawing, and you can choose to bring in other tools if you decide to do so. I chose to just lower the opacity and raise the size of my brush in order to do some of the shading. Shading isn't even a requirement, but if it's something that you decide that you want to do, you can use other brushes to do that, or you can stick with the same brush. For simplicity's sake, I like, and just to keep me within like the drawing mindset, I usually stick with the same tool. I also did choose to erase a little bit. As I mentioned, perspective and straight lines and all of that is just generally not my strong suit. So I chose to erase my first attempt, but not entirely. Sometimes I like to keep like ghost versions or just light versions of previous lines that I made, so I can kind of see the learning process right there on the screen. I can see the strokes that I made before I did the corrections. And again, it doesn't have to be anything exciting, whatever happens to be right in front of you. And if you decide you want to continue past the 10 minutes, you can do so. And again, it's meant to be not seen. It's meant to be disposable. It doesn't have to be pretty. So the final exercise that I have is thumbnailing. And the trick with thumbnailing is, and this is I think is something that a lot of people get hung up on, is they're meant to be small. They're meant to be like postage stamp small. Maybe sometimes a little bit bigger, but on this particular screen I could probably fit like 12 thumbnail sketches. And the point of thumbnailing is you can start by drawing just what's in front of you, combining elements of things that are in front of you. Like right now I have a sleeping dog, and I have that space heater that I just drew, so I could, and they're not next to each other, but I could do a little thumbnail of like the dog on top of the space heater, or the dog curled up in front of the space heater, stuff like that. You can start with what's in front of you and you can sort of start trying to combine elements of things that are in front of you, or you can just start immediately from imagination and just draw things that come to mind, or you could draw some of whatever your favorite things are, or your favorite things to draw. Start from there and just kind of like work your way up. And the point of this is to generate a bunch of really quick sketches that mean nothing on their own, but can be sort of a spark of inspiration, possibly for later pieces. But again, no stress, they don't have to be. They could just be a series of nothingness drawings that can be deleted immediately afterwards. So that's the exercise that I'm going to finish up with now. Okay, so you don't have to do these rectangles to kind of contain the picture. It's something that I like to do, but you could just thumbnail little open pictures like all over the page if you want to, if you don't want it to be laid out nicely, or if you don't want to take the time to make the little frames, that's fine as well. I do it just to give me a little bit of a window to stay within, and to remind myself that this is a thumbnail. It isn't meant to be quick and small and very loose on detail, or lacking quite a bit of detail. And you can see you don't have to go with a theme. You can draw all kinds of different things. Again, you can start with what's in front of you. I started with my backyard, which is full of trees and rocks. It's mostly a forest in my backyard. And then I went to, somebody reading under a tree. And then I went to maybe someone reading in a forest of mushrooms. And from mushrooms, I was able to jump off to like one of those trees that have mushrooms growing out of the side of them, and somebody walking through a forest like that, which I didn't put in a lot of detail for the forest behind them. And then maybe a mom and a child, or a dad and a child walking through a forest, a mushroom forest. And then maybe the fairies sitting on or playing near a stump with like the forest in the background. And then you'll see that there was a little bit of a pause in the drawing process. I kind of like gained a theme, I guess right about here, and went with that theme. And then right about here, I kind of felt like I ran out of steam or interest in that theme, because of course none of this is really like groundbreaking in terms of art ideas. But I did start with what was in front of me and then went through imagination, and then ran into a roadblock about right here. So there was a little bit of a pause, and then I went to maybe a tree or a house in like on a desert island, or just on an island near the beach, which this doesn't read at all. But the point of thumbnails is to just kind of get ideas down very quickly, and as long as they read to you and you know what you are doodling, that's all that really matters. Because again, nobody ever needs to see these, nobody ever needs to try and interpret these are entirely just for you. Then I went to, because it's mermaid, again, just kind of ideas, it is mermaid right now. I went to a mermaid riding maybe the back of a whale or a shark or something like that. And again, not a lot of detail, very quick sketches. And then I went to just a possible scene in like a coffee shop. Again, very light on details and things like that, but just like sort of a POV scene if you're sitting at like a table and actually watching what's going on around you in a coffee shop, instead of having your head in a phone or laptop or drawing or whatever, which is what I usually am doing. So again, kind of all over the spectrum in terms of subjects and where I got them from, and that's fine. Again, this is all just a matter of just kind of like doodling either what's in front of you, what's around you, what you have in your head, and just getting sort of warmed up to the idea of creating art, even when you're in a space where you feel like you have no ideas or you don't like anything that you're making. And you can always, at a later date and time, or if you feel inspired immediately, you can always turn one of these thumbnails into a full-fledged painting or drawing. So those are the 3 art exercises that I like to do to work through art block. I will say that none of them fix art block. I don't think that there's any kind of like magic wand to immediately break yourself out of art block, but I do think that these help. At least while you're going through it, they help you kind of like stay in the groove, keep creating, keep momentum, because again, the hardest thing to do is pick up again if you go a really long time without creating art. The hardest thing to do is get back into that. So I think that these help you just kind of keep muscle memory going of drawing, kind of help you work through, and they can help you get inspiration to actually create something that you want to create. And if you do any of these exercises, let me know how they go. I hope that they help you out. If you have any other tips or exercises that you like to do to work through art block, please leave them in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.